We now return to Illinois Rising, presented by the Illinois Policy Institute, the radio show discussing the honest truth about Illinois policy and politics. Here's AM 560's Dan Proft.
Dan Proft back with Pat Hughes, co-founder of the Illinois Opportunity Project, and this edition of Illinois Rising. And we told you about this power couple in southern Illinois on a previous installment of Illinois Rising. Down in Saline County, Harrisburg to be specific, the Gausches. You got Mike and Angela Gausch. They're big shots in Harrisburg on the backs of Harrisburg residents. Mike is the superintendent of the Harrisburg School District, and Angela's a teacher in Carbondale. Combined, they made about $220,000 last year. That's about, 5 times the median household income in Harrisburg, Pat?
5 times, Dan.
Their home, which they paid $219,000 for in 2015, is 4 times as much as their average neighbors. The median home price in Harrisburg, home sale price in Harrisburg over the past 12 months, $46,000. Interesting, the piece that we did in Southern Illinois News, seillinoisnews.com, I covered this story, one of the outlets I started. When it comes to responding to the Gausches, who were advocates for the tax increases that were passed.
They were more than just advocates. We'll get to that in a second.
Yeah, advocates for that, for those tax increases. Talked to a coal miner down in Saline County, Bob Sandage. Been in the coal mining industry for 40 years. He said, myself along with hundreds of others were working, and we couldn't go to Springfield to lobby, talking about them going to Springfield to lobby for the tax increases. Coal mines in Saline County were operating and carrying on business as usual. Sandage goes on to take, I think, the eminently reasonable position. Quote, I think teachers should be compensated for their commitment and dedication, but not to the extreme they are in Illinois. Sandage went on to say the education system could stand to manage their cash the way business manages its own cash. Numerous industries across the nation have been forced to make concessions in order to remain profitable. The education system might try following suit. Well, that's outrageous.
Well, Dan, there's a couple of data points in there that are fascinating. So before we get to the next step, which is they paid, these Harrisburg people, paid $220,000 or whatever for their house, and they make $220,000. How many people in the state of Illinois in a year make the amount of money that their house costs? That number is it's J.B. Pritzker, but that number is so small. And the reason that number's small, and gets to my second point,
that's a good
is
point.
that in a market like Harrisburg, you don't pay teachers $200,000 because the houses only cost $80,000. In other words,
46
or $46,000,
median price.
Right? Whatever the number is, right? So if you were running a business there, you would never pay people that amount of money because the cost of living there doesn't justify that expense for a business. That's why the residents of Harrisburg's median income is 4 or 5 times less than the Gauches, right? That's the problem right there in a nutshell. These public sector union employees are not being paid anywhere near the cost of living market for what they're doing. And I will bet you that there are all kinds of people near Harrisburg, around Harrisburg, that could do the jobs that these people are doing and do them well and would be willing to do them for much less money.
Well, the Gausches, as we mentioned, took a little jaunt up to Springfield to lobby for those tax increases so they can continue in the lifestyle to which they become accustomed.
And why can they do that, Dan? Because were they off work? Are they off work in the summertime? What's the deal?
Well,
they only work 9 months a year.
They're off work, yeah.
Right.
So it gives them time to lobby legislators. Angela got in the face of State Representative Jeannie Ives, Republican from Wheaton, who voted no on the tax increases. She didn't like that. But anyway, they took a trip up there to lobby legislators on the tax increases. And the Gausches have been reimbursed by taxpayers, school district taxpayers in Saline County, $2,414 for the trips that he has made, Mike Gausch, to lobby legislators. So I just want you to understand this. So the travel vouchers, he gets reimbursed 57.5 cents a mile, and then for their meals and lodging and so forth, $2,414 reimbursed by the school district for his time going to Springfield to lobby on behalf of taking more money from Saline County families and sending it to Springfield, in addition to having Saline County families pay his expenses to do that.
This is how.
In addition to the Saline County families paying his wife and him a combined $220,000. Well, I guess his wife's in Carbondale, but you get the point.
This is how insulated people like this are. And this is just a great example of them, Dan. There are public sector union employees like this all over the state that are like this. They're so insulated from the reality that everybody else faces in their daily lives and in their jobs that they just take and take and take and take. I call it like the Martha Stewart. You know, Martha Stewart was worth all this money, right? How did she get busted and go to jail for 5 months? Because she did some insider trading on a $35,000 or $50,000 stock tip, right? They will, and the reason is because she just didn't think she was like above everything. She's Martha Stewart. These people think they can do anything, they can get away with anything, they shouldn't have to pay for anything, and they're so detached from reality. And when that happens en masse, what do? They don't want to give that up, so they go and they lobby for higher taxes on their residents and the people who, are paying for their salaries. And that's what the General Assembly responds to.
That's not the only thing they do. Let me introduce you to another superintendent. Unit 5 School District Superintendent Mark Daniel. He's a little further north in Normal. He has responded to the proposal that's being bandied about to create tax credit scholarships, which would be, again, voluntary contributions that Illinoisans could make into a fund, personally or through a corporation, where they would receive a tax credit for their voluntary contribution, just like you would if you gave money the United Way. You get a tax write-off. But they get a tax credit for that donation, and then those combined funds would be used to provide scholarships for low to middle income families to send their children to the school of their choice. So the way this has been covered, diverting funds from the public schools, no, it's not, because people aren't making donations to scholarship funds that don't exist. So this is additional monies that would be voluntarily contributed under this proposal philanthropically, because there's an incentive to do it, good public policy as well as tax benefit. Well, Superintendent Mark Daniel, Unit 5 School District there in Normal, said, to me, that's a voucher system. I'll never agree with that. Vouchers could lead to a system of haves and have-nots, don't you know? Where parents' choices about where to send their students could hurt the public school system overall, because it's about protecting the system, not about best outcome for your children. He's not done. It's the beginning of segregation. We saw that all the way through the 1960s. Tax credit scholarships, separate drinking fountains, Pat.
This guy is out of his mind. Let me tell you, he is right about the haves and the have-nots under a voucher system. There would be haves and there would be have-nots. The haves would be the parents and the school children who would get a decent education and have a chance at opportunity at life. And the have-nots would be the public sector hacks like this guy who would lose his giant money and his giant pension, and he'd be forced to compete in the marketplace. And he wouldn't be able to skate by on rhetoric like this, where he's comparing people who want to get kids out of failing schools, particularly African-American and Hispanic kids. And you're calling those people who are willing to spend money and time on those programs to give those folks a chance at some kind of life. He's saying that's racist. This is how sick and twisted these people are.
It's the upside down. I mean, it's the same thing. It's your kid is not your kid. He's ours for the purposes of the system.
Yeah, and the system is so funny because the system is not the school system. It's the contracts and the benefits and the salaries. That's the system he's really referencing, right? That's what they're afraid of losing. Mm-hmm. They're afraid of losing power control over the money. It's not over the students. It's over the money. They're bleeding out students every day. Our population decreases every single day, Dan. We're going to Iowa, Wisconsin, Kentucky, wherever. So they're bleeding out students. That's not what they're afraid of losing. They're afraid of losing the money.
I'm just trying to wrap my mind around the logic of this, the argument. So right now you have people that have money or have political clout who they have choice. They can send their kids wherever they want to go. Rahm sends his kids to lab schools. We did a story in Sangamon Sun, SangamonSun.com, about all the legislators who either attended private school or send their kids to private school or both. So they have choice. And then we create a scholarship fund so that low to middle income families who don't have the resources that provides choice in their children's education, they do have that choice. They would get that choice. And that's segregation. So everybody having choice is segregation. The rich and the politically connected having choice and low to middle income families not is not segregation.
Yeah, I mean,
I'm having a Winston Smith spin out here.
You're through the looking glass. Look, the reality of it is, if the kid has a choice, the parents have a choice, that doesn't mean they won't choose the public school. They might choose the public school. I'm in an area where we have really good public schools and really good Catholic schools. A lot of people send their kids to the public. Some send them to the Catholic. They all have the money to send them to private school, and they don't, right? So people make the choice. What this guy is afraid of is the choice makers. He's afraid that their system is so bad, his work is so bad, that they're going to choose against him. If they choose against him, he's going to lose teachers. He's going to lose students. And ultimately, he's going to lose his job potentially.